Welcome back, Apple Sims. I'm the Apple Simp here, and right now it is 2:30 in the morning, the night right before Apple's September 7th iPhone 14 event. And I'm making this video intentionally last minute because I wanted to go over all the last minute, most up to date leaks, rumors, talk about expectations about this event, and also give some of my insider information and tell you about my predictions for this event based on precedents, insider information, rumors, and leaks. Talk all about this event. And also, after the event, hopefully tomorrow night, I'll be posting a highlights of the event and also my impressions on everything that Apple's announced. All right, and what I'm going to be pre-ordering and going over what happened at the event. But now let's talk about our expectations for this event and my predictions. So first, I want to talk about the main thing that most people are looking forward to this event, the absolute guaranteed, the iPhone 14. So first, let's talk about the non-pros, the iPhone 14 and the larger model. So those are going to be very minor upgrades. Think of it kind of like Apple's iPhone XS and XS Max going from the 10. Right, the XS was a very minor spec bump, a couple of improvements over already great design, no major design change, and then they also introduced a bigger size of it. A lot of people who bought the XS series went for the Max for that bigger sizing. So that's going to be very similar to the iPhone 14 series. So the iPhone 14 and its larger counterpart, which I'll get on the naming in a second, will have 6 gigabytes of RAM, have longer battery life compared to the 13 series, probably between 30 to 60 minutes, I can imagine. And Apple's definitely going to highlight brighter displays, better speakers, and a better battery life. All those small improvements that make people maybe look at going from a 13 to 14 or from a 12 to a 14 or something older. So all those nice upgrades. Minor, but definitely noticeable. Also, I want to just one other rumor is that a lot of rumors and sources where Apple will be giving the iPhone 14 non-Pro series the Apple A15 chip. I can't see Apple doing that, ladies and gentlemen. What I can imagine happening is Apple's going to be putting the Apple A16, the same CPU in all 4 iPhones, the two Pro and 2 non-Pro models. However, just like we've seen Apple do before, just like I believe it was iPhone 12 series, with the iPhone 13 series, we saw Apple have the same processor in the 13 and 13 Pros. However, they turned off GPU cores on the lower ones, so they were kind of binned, watered down a bit to give them more of an advantage on the Pros. So I can imagine that's what Apple's going to do, because Apple wouldn't put a year-old processor phone, and when they're trying to be more competitive, they're not going to give the competition an advantage, a year head start. That wouldn't happen. So Apple's going to be putting the A16 on all 4 of the iPhones. It's just a matter of the Pros are going to be the A16 at full capacity, right? Nothing's turned off. All GPU cores, all CPU cores, all the neural engine, everything will be working at full throttle. Versus the iPhone 14s, the non-Pro iPhone 14s will have an A16 as well, but more than likely will be binned in some way, watered down in some way. We'll have probably GPU cores turned off, maybe some of the neural engine cores turned off, something along those lines. But A16. And then pricing. I'm expecting Apple to pull an iPhone 11 style move. What do I mean by that? I mean that Apple going from an iPhone XR to an 11, they brought down the phone by $50, kept the storage size the same, and made that phone better in almost every way. That's how Apple's going to market the iPhone 13. Better, cheaper. Better phone in a lot of ways, and cheaper. Most people look at 10R to 11, it's like, oh, not much difference change. Just an extra lens, better display, a little bit better battery life. However, that $50 reduction from the 10R to the 11 made a lot of people upgrade to it, made it worth their while. And the iPhone 11 sold incredibly well. Apple to this day is still selling that phone. So I'm expecting Apple to start the base model iPhone 14 at 120 gigabytes. That's not changing for non-pros, and starting at $750 versus the iPhone 13, which is 128 at $800. Now, for that larger one, I'm calling it now. I'm 90% certain about this. I will be surprised if I'm mistaken about this, but this is not a leak by any means. This is just insider information. The larger non-Pro iPhone will be called iPhone 14 Max. Let me explain why I believe that. So as you Apple Sims know, I work in the cellular industry. Not naming what company, but I work with multiple carriers at once. A lot of carriers in the last couple of weeks have been getting accessories for these iPhone 14s. Right? Of course, they don't say iPhone 14. They say 2022 iPhones to keep the naming a secret. However, one important thing I want to point out that leads me to believe that this will be called the iPhone 14 Max, not iPhone 14 Plus. The carriers are getting screen protectors, cases, all kinds of accessories that say 2022 iPhone 6.1. That's the 14. 2022 iPhone 6.1 Pro, 14 Pro. 2022 iPhone 6.7 Pro Max, that is the 14 Pro Max. Now, for that fourth phone, the larger non-Pro iPhone, like the carriers are getting many accessories, like I said, cases, screen protectors, and MagSafe accessories that say 2022 iPhone 6.7 Max, not Pro Max, but Max. In the past, when Apple used the naming scheme of Plus, 6 Plus, 7 Plus, 8 Plus, they would say 2016 iPhone Plus. That was back in the day. Now we're getting 2022 iPhone 6.7 Max. I'm fairly certain, Simps, that it is gonna be called the iPhone 14 Max, and I will be surprised if it is called Plus. It makes more sense to be called Plus. Yes, I prefer that Apple went with the Plus naming for that phone. However, everything leading me to believe that it is to be called Max. So we're looking at 128, 256, and 512 gigabyte models of the iPhone 14 and 14 Max. 750 starting for the 14. 850 starting for the 14 Max. A lot of people are going to be really, really interested in that 14 Max. For years, people wanted the largest iPhone. They come in asking, hey, well, I want the big iPhone, the largest one. And then when we tell them it is the Pro Max or the Max phone, it has these advantages. Like, I don't care about the camera, I don't care about the processor, I don't care about this, I don't care about that. I just want an iPhone that's this size. Apple heard that for years. That's why now they're making a non-Pro iPhone that size, the iPhone 14 Max, and that is going to be an excellent seller. Lots of people are going to be going to that phone. I'm calling it now. So that's everything on the iPhone 14s. All right, next, iPhone 14 Pros. Right, this is where the big upgrades for this year are going to be. All right, so as we said, two sides: 6.1, 6.7, 14 Pro, 14 Pro Max. 6 gigabytes of RAM, not 8, unfortunately. So, but it's nice that Apple's giving 6 across the board. 48 megapixel camera, that's a fact, on the main sensor. We're going to see a noticeable upgrade to the ultra-wide lens. And you're going to see 8K video support. More on that in just a little bit. But yes, 8K video support, definitely catching up to the competition. So this definitely puts Apple's, in terms of hardware, Apple's cameras, definitely in line with the competition. Except for in one thing, periscopic zooms, which we're hearing that's going to be in next year's iPhones. Periscopic lenses, Apple Sims, for those of you who aren't aware, are the camera systems allow you to have a very extended range of zoom, like hybrid zoom, like on some of Samsung's devices. They have up to 100x zoom. The iPhone, as of right now, can only go up to 10x zoom, and that's almost completely digital. Optical, only about 3. So Apple's been lacking a little bit in the zoom capabilities on its cameras. That won't be fixed dramatically this year. Maybe a little bit, maybe going up to maybe 5x optical zoom, maybe up to 10 hybrid zoom, or 15 hybrid zoom. But not a periscope system this year, maybe next year. My concern, though, is with that 48 megapixel sensor is night mode. Night mode on the iPhones has been excellent. So definitely some of the best on the market. However, when it comes to massive sensors with lots of megapixels, this 48 megapixel sensor, some of the competition has 64 and 108 megapixel sensors. Night mode becomes more of a challenge. That large sensor has trouble performing in night mode. So that's a little bit of a concern for me. I hope that Apple has the right software in place to mitigate those issues. However, it isn't going to be a concern of mine until I see those night shots on the iPhone 14 Pro series. We'll see about that. Pricing, of course, we're fairly certain there are going to be price hikes this year. Manufacturing cost increases, inflation, supply chain constraints. A lot of factors are going to be causing these phones to go up in pricing. Now, I want to talk about two scenarios that could happen. First, the best case scenario. Best case scenario is Apple increases the pricing of the Pros by $50 to $100. So instead of starting at $1,000 and $1,100 in the US, we're looking at starting between $1,050 or $1,100, and then starting at either $1,150 or $1,200. And with doing that, Apple would bump up the base storage of the Pros to 256 gigabytes. That is best case scenario. Most people would not complain about that. Most people go in saying, yeah, it's another $100. 256 would future-proof me. It's a lot of storage. Let me go ahead and do that. So starting at 256 with a $100 increase or $50 to $100 increase, I don't think many people complaining about that. That's best case scenario. I'd actually like to see that a lot. Worst case scenario, which unfortunately is a possibility, Apple Sims, I will tell you this, that the worst case scenario for the price increase is that Apple increases the price of the base models $100 or more. So starting at $1,100 and $1,200 or more, and keeping the base storage 120 gigabytes. If Apple does this, Apple Sims, I'm sorry, but that's going to be a really bad move from Apple. That's not very consumer friendly. That's a loss of value, even though the phone is upgraded in several ways. That's going to be a really bad move from Apple. But we'll see. Just a couple hours from now, within about 12 hours or so, we'll have all the information from the event and we'll be able to tell exactly. which scenario is going to happen. I'm leaning more towards Apple bringing up the base price of $100 each and doubling up the storage. That's best case scenario, and I can see Apple doing that. Along with that, speaking of the storage, there will be no 2 terabyte models. Apple released 1 terabyte with the 13 Pro series. That's what I have when I'm using to record this video. The technology that's required for that amount of storage is a lot less reliable than what Apple uses currently for their UFS storage. So if any phone was to have 2 terabytes of storage, it would be a lot slower read and write speeds and also less reliable. You may have issues where the phone is not reading the memory properly, not reporting the available and used up storage correctly. So Apple will not be introducing a 2 terabyte model now or honestly anytime soon, which is not much of a need for it. 1 terabyte is more than enough. Less than 2% of iPhone users are going to utilize that kind of space. Of course, the always on display. Now, the always on display is something I've loved in Android phone for years. For years, I've wanted to see it on iPhone, and I'm really happy to see Apple finally bring us an always on display. However, from the renders we've been seeing, I'm afraid Apple's going to butcher this. Renders we're seeing about how Apple will probably handle always on display on the iPhone 14 Pros is that they'll just dim the display, black out the background, keep the subject of the wallpaper visible, but just maybe dim down a little bit and still show a lot of information on the screen. That's definitely going to diminish the battery life of these phones, unfortunately. That kind of destroys the purpose of an always on display. So if the renders are, and that's how Apple handles always on display, that will not be a really good move. I'll still probably use it, but I won't enjoy it as much as I do on Android phones because it wasn't delivered properly. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Apple's probably doesn't have a really good implementation and different settings so you can control how you want it always on display to show up on your phone. Lastly, I want to talk about that cutout. So yes, that cutout is happening. Whether you like it or not, I'm not a super big fan of it, honestly. I've never hated the notch and how it looked. It's necessary Face ID. We don't have the technology available today to put Face ID and a high quality front camera on the display. We've seen Samsung do that, so the technology is there to put a camera on the display, but not Face ID sensors, and those cameras are really low quality. They're grainy, they're not sharp, they lack detail. So I'm glad Apple isn't doing that. Now with the punch hole, whether you like the design of it or not, we've heard some very recent leaks that Apple's going to be having software in place to merge them together. So when your phone is on, it looks like it's just one pill shape, not a dot in a pill shape. I can see Apple doing that. I can definitely see Apple doing that, making it as one cutout. If you go back a couple years back in 2017, when we first got the renders of the first iPhone with the notch, the iPhone 10 in 2017, seeing rumors that Apple's going to black out the two, what they call the ears, right on the left and right of the notch to make it one bar. That was not the case. I believe that Apple's kind of seized criticism from that. They didn't want to backtrack on that decision, but I think that for this, we have a very different design on the front. I feel that Apple will have some software in place to black out the middle area so that when the display is on, you just see one medium-sized pill shape, not a dot and a small pill shape. That I think Apple's going to handle it, and that's everything I have for the iPhone 14 Pros, right? So just to reiterate about the iPhones, iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Max, iPhone 14 Pro, Pro Max, pricing $50 to $100 increase. Base storage will probably be 256 on the Pros, and we hope so, but might not be. And that's everything I have for you for the iPhone 14 Pros. All right, that's all about the iPhones. Next thing that Apple's going to talk about at this event is going to be something that not many people were expecting at this event until recently. However, I, as the Apple Sim for the last 2 or 3 months, have been saying that we will be seeing this product at the September iPhone 14 event, and that is AirPods Pro 2. Highly anticipated device. Lots of people, including myself, have been waiting for a new generation of these. Now, these things are awesome. For years, they were the gold standard of high quality buds on the market, right? Everyone tried to compete with these things, and competition didn't really catch up to them only until the last year or so, right? These came out in the end of 2019. They've been absolutely awesome. I've loved them. They had the best noise canceling, best battery life, best sound quality, everything, best microphones, everything, up until just the last few months when. Just in the last year when competition is catching up. So that's why Apple decided this year to release AirPods Pro 2. So what are we expecting? And what are we going to see from the AirPods Pro 2? We're going to be seeing a very similar shape. We're going to be seeing very similar buds. But what's going to change is that the case will have a built-in speaker. Now you may be thinking, what's the point of putting a speaker outside of a buds case? For the purpose of Find My. So when you lose these buds, somewhere and you make them ring, you can hear them. not just the buds themselves. I've never lost the buds myself. Sometimes I've misplaced these. I don't know which pocket I put them in. I don't know if my car, whatever. So speaker on the outside these for the reason of Find My. There's going to be a loop for you to put a strap on. That's going to be really handy. Honestly, I like going caseless, but I do like having something to hold, something to attach my AirPods to. So having that loop would be very handy. But overall, very similar on the outside. Of course, going to support MagSafe. One thing I want to talk about very quickly is that the bottom right now is Lightning. We're hearing that Apple maybe can transition to USB-C. So what we see tomorrow at the is going to foreshadow the future of Apple products and the ports that they have. So if they continue to use Lightning, then Lightning isn't going anywhere anytime soon. We can expect future iPhones to also continue with Lightning. No USB-C, unfortunately. Now, if Apple decides to make AirPods Pro 2 the first iPhone accessory, essentially, to go USB-C, then that's going to be foreshadowing iPhone 15 in 2023 going USB-C. So that's going to be very interesting to see. I can see Apple going USB-C. I'd love to see it. It makes sense that they would put USB-C on the AirPods Pro 2. Now, that's all the case. The buds themselves, we heard for years the next generation AirPods Pro are going to be stemless. They're going to be like some of the Galaxy buds. Or like these guys right here, you know, there's no stem. These just go in your ear, fully flush in your ear. Like these are the Google Pixel buds. We are not going to be seeing that Apple stems. So Apple's going to continue the same stem design, which I find superior in a lot of ways. Why? They're in your ear, the stem closer to your mouth, better for microphone quality. A lot of times I have those buds, the sound quality is great on them, but because the microphone's all the way up here, people have trouble hearing me or hearing me clearly. So I like that Apple's going to be keeping the stem. Also, I'm not a big fan of touch controls going like this. So having capacitive buttons on the stem, just tapping them, holding them, double tapping them, I like that a lot more. So I like the stem design. That's going to stay. Rubber tips are going to stay the same because I love these rubber tips. They're great for having them in your ear for a while. You don't feel them. They're excellent. What internals we're going to be seeing? We're going to be definitely seeing some sound quality improvements, better bass, better sound quality overall. But a bigger upgrade I'm looking forward to is the internal chip. So right now it has the H1 chip. H1 chip has been wonderful, great for pairing different devices, switching to your devices. Apple may be releasing tomorrow the H2 chip. That's going to allow for faster pairing, more seamless switching between all your devices. We're going to minimize that delay even more, even though it's very minimal now. The shorter, the better. Better integration, tighter integration. That's what I'm seeing. So AirPods Pro are looking like a slam dunk, if that's what we see. Very anticipated, and I will definitely be picking up a pair of those. Next, watches. So the Apple Watches are getting a lot of changes. We've been hearing rumors for months about them. So right now we have a Series 7, and we have the SE and a Series 3. First off, Series 3 is gone. If you go on Amazon right now or a lot of different retailers, they're just saying sold out. On Apple's website, they're showing several weeks wait because they don't want anyone buying one now when they're going to be killed off soon. Series 3 is finally going away. Very happy to see that. And I'm sure many of you Apple Sims have seen this render floating around the internet, whether in the last couple of months or even up to over a year ago, before we were expecting the Series 7 Apple Watches, with this flat design. Now, I don't like this design. Thankfully, we're not getting it. We are not going to see any flat watches tomorrow. Not from the Apple Watch Series 8 or the other watch Apple's planning. So no flat watches. Series 3 is dying. Aside from that, Apple will be releasing Apple Watch Series 8 in the same size, 41 and 45 millimeter. That will be a smallish upgrade, a refinement, if you will, from Series 7. Series 7 already got a design update. It was a thinner bezels and a more curved edges last year, so Apple's not going to be doing anything different with that. We're going to see the same design, probably a speed improvement, maybe a little bit of battery life. There's not much else we can ask for in the Apple Watch. They already do everything we want. So the Series 8 is going to be very minor refinement of Series 7, nothing major there. Also going to be seeing a new Apple Watch SE. So the SE is made to be Apple's most affordable watch. A lot of people buy it for their kids to just keep track of them and for communication. People who just say, I don't need all the bells and whistles. I just need an Apple Watch connected to my phone and have very basic use for a smartwatch. The Apple Watch SE was a great move from Apple. It's been very well selling, and it makes sense for Apple to update it. You know, more modern processor, maybe an always-on display, a little bit longer battery life. Maybe add the AKG sensor, maybe oxygen level monitoring. We don't know much about what Apple will add to the SE, but we know it's going to be refreshed. Any refresh, also, even if it's just a processor update to give it to extend its lifespan, I'm all for it, especially if the price stays the same. So new SE Series 8. Now, one thing that we have not seen before from Apple is Apple is going to be releasing for the first time an Apple Watch Pro. That naming makes sense based on what we're hearing, and I would say I'm 80% confident that's going to be the naming of it, Apple Watch Pro. What are we going to be seeing with this Apple Watch Pro? First, absolutely massive. Let me put up some rendering up here and some CAD files. Absolutely massive. So right now, the largest Apple Watch Apple makes, like the one I have on my wrist, this is a Series 6 in 44 millimeter. Series 7, 45 millimeter, the same, just thinner bezels. This new watch is said to be 49 millimeters, Apple Sims. That is absolutely massive. There is a market for people who want those kind of watches. And also, speaking of the market for them, it's a niche product, niche market, yes. But if you look at, for example, some Garmin had a lot of success in their watches. They're massive watches, like they're 49, 50 millimeter watches. They have a week-long battery life, very capable watches, very rugged, titanium body. And that's exactly what Apple's going to be doing with the Apple Watch Pro. Titanium body, large, big battery life battery gains. We could see this watch going 3 to 5 days maybe. The first Apple Watch to get really, really great battery life on this watch. That's one of the reasons why they made it so thick. So Apple's going to be going head-to-head with Garmin on that, because right now, if you look on, if anyone has an iPhone, they're buying an Apple Watch. Very few of them buy Fitbits or from any other brand, especially now that Samsung watches no longer support iOS. So Apple has really cornered the market in Apple Watches, except for that niche market of people who have money to spend on a really capable wearable that they don't have to worry about charging every night, that is very lifestyle oriented. They don't mind a larger watch because of the battery life. So that's what Apple's targeting with that Apple Watch Pro. And we've heard rumors that the pricing could be $900 to $1,000 starting. Would not be surprised at all. If Apple decided to price it at $999, wouldn't be surprised at all. The bands for this will not be backwards compatible. They'll probably have its own line of bands. That's why if you look at Amazon, Best Buy, Target, Costco, all these places, they have a lot of Apple Watch bands that they've been selling for a long time. Not available or heavily discounted right now, because Apple's going to be changing up some of the bands. So the SE and the Series 8, they're going to be backwards compatible. Excellent. So if you've had any Apple Watches in the last 7 years or so, they're all going to work on the new Apple Watch, except for the Watch Pro, of course, because of that bigger size and brand new style. One feature that I'm really excited to see on the Apple Watch Pro, and I do hope that Apple brings this to Apple Watches in the future, is a second programmable button. So this is going to have a big crown and a side button that stick out a little bit, make it very easy to access. But on the Apple Watch Pro, the CAD files at least are showing that they're going to be on the opposite side of the watch, another side button, and that does not have a specific function. It is programmable. So you could say that you could put one as, oh, this launches Siri, this launches my Apple Pay, this launches a specific app, this launches a specific workout. That's going to be awesome. That is going to be great. That sounds like a great feature. I'd love to see it on all Apple Watches. So that's going to be the Apple Watch Series 8, new SE, and Watch Pro. Now, we talked about the 3 guaranteed things that we're going to be seeing at this event. iPhone 14 and a 14 Pros, 4 iPhones in total. We're going to be getting 3 Apple Watches in total, and we're going to be getting AirPods Pro 2. Those are guaranteed. I would be very, very surprised if those 3 things did not come tomorrow, did come in the event later today. Now, I want to tell you Apple Sims about things that we are not going to be seeing at this event. Do not hold your breath for it. Couple of things. 1, no AirPods Max 2. Too soon for them. Apple waited almost 3 years for the AirPods Pro refresh, 2.5 years from the original AirPods to AirPods second generation. AirPods Max 2, not going to happen. At this event, at least. We're not going to be seeing any iPads or Macs at all. Why? Because it's almost certain at this point, and I have information that leads me to believe that Apple will be holding an October event that will be iPad and Mac focused. We're going to be seeing a 10 point. We're going to be seeing the Apple's entry-level iPad with that redesign that we talked about earlier. That will be at the October event. New iPad Pros at that event. Maybe an iPad Mini refresh with a spec bump, maybe. All the Mac stuff. All Macs and iPads are not going to be at this event. That's October, right? So we're not going to see any iPads or Macs tomorrow. Also, don't get your hopes up for AR or VR headset or glasses. Those are way off. And those are not going to be at this event. They're not going to be in October. At the earliest, we're hearing some rumble that Apple's going to be holding a January event What happens in January events? Apple Sims. Based on precedents, that's when Apple releases brand new product categories. The first iPhone, the first iPad, all those big products that were revolutionary, that changed their industries and made Apple what they are today, were released at January events. That's not going to be happening at an iPhone event. We're not going to be seeing that today. No Apple Car. Don't get your hopes up. The closest thing we've seen to anything Apple Car related has been at WWDC last year, when Apple showed us that in fall of 2023 we're going to be seeing a big redesign of Apple CarPlay when car makers start supporting that. Don't count anything for the Apple Car tomorrow, right? We may see a couple updates, some Apple TV stuff. We may see some changes to the Apple Card, really basic stuff like that. Maybe updates to some of their apps. Like I've heard there may be a podcast app refresh. That's not going to be at the beginning of the event. The kind of like the fluff, the really small stuff, just the quick tidbits. But yeah, like I said, no AR glasses, no VR, no car, no iPads, no Macs, no AirPods Max, none of that kind of stuff. But it's a pretty predictable event. Now, those are things that we are and are not going to see at the event. Now, there is one wild card I do want to put out there for the sake of this video, Apple Sim, just so it's out there, so that if I am correct, I can be credited with that. And I just want to give you techies the information. Of course, whenever you see any Apple product, or well, specifically Apple product, but this can be true for other brands as well, you see this product goes on sale for the same price across the board, all retailers. Like when you see, for example, AirPods Pro are normally $250, being on sale for $170 and $180 on Amazon, Best Buy, Costco, Sam's Club. Everyone's selling it for the same price. That's not those retailers being generous and getting together. No, that's Apple telling them do that, and it's more than likely, and it's almost always because they want to clear inventory, make room for new inventory. Now, what am I talking about? I'm talking about Apple TV. So, Apple TV is great product. I love it. I have 3 of them. I have them almost all TVs in my house. They're absolutely excellent. Now, what am I talking about with the Apple TV? We know that the current Apple TV supports 4K, right? People who have high-end TVs, premium TVs, are getting the Apple TV over any Chromecast, or any Amazon stick, over any Roku stick, right? People love this. This is almost an essential part of any Apple ecosystem. However, we just talked about earlier about how the iPhones are going to support 8K video recording. I would not be surprised if Apple refreshed the Apple TV tomorrow with a version that supports 8K, better processor, and a higher storage option, right, to support all that 8K content that you should be putting on. For the sake of future-proofing, and also so that our 8K videos we take on our iPhones will be able to be viewed on those kind of devices. Of course, you need a TV that supports 8K resolution. I'm talking about but what I'm saying is that even if you had an 8K TV, like I have one in my office right now that I'm looking at, it's an 8K television, but not much content to watch on it, and I have to have a streaming box to support it. So if an Apple TV came out tomorrow with 8K support, that would be absolutely fantastic, and it would make a lot of sense. Why do I believe that Apple's going to do this? Because if you look at Anywhere Techies, the Apple TV does not get very many discounts, right? Costco's selling for about $5 to $10 cheaper than what Apple does. That's just Costco, of course. We all love Costco. But it doesn't really get many price drops. Even if it does, sometimes usually just $10 to $20 at Best Buy or Amazon or something. If you go right now on Apple.com, not available to ship out immediately, first of all. Secondly, Amazon, Best Buy, Costco, you name it, Sam's Club, everyone, at least in the US, has this $180 Apple TV for $140, clearing inventory, right? 9to5 Toys, Mac Rumors, all those deals websites for Apple products have all been talking about these deals for the last several weeks, right? I would not be surprised if tomorrow Apple updated the Apple TV with an 8K version, right? Again, that's not insider information. That's not a leak. I'm not a leaker by any means. I'm not claiming to be. All I'm saying is the information, everything I'm looking at points to that. It makes sense. I'd like to see that tomorrow. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm the Apple simp. I'm not a leaker, right? For that, go to John Prosser, go to Everything Apple Pro, Mark Gurman. Those guys are leakers. I'm not a leaker. I just want to put that information out there, put that wildcard out there, why I believe that might happen tomorrow, because if it does, then you know who to watch from now on about your Apple content, the Apple Sim. And that wraps it up, Apple Sim. So, Talk about everything. iPhone 14s, iPhone 14 Pro, 3 Apple Watches, AirPods Pro are given. Don't expect any crazy wild cards, possibly an Apple TV refresh tomorrow. No Macs, no iPads. Right? So, right now, finishing this video right now, it's about 4 a.m. Within the next 12 hours, the event will be concluded. We'll be talking about it, and hopefully by later tonight, after watching the event in depth and reading some, talking with some of you on Twitter and getting some feedback, I'm going to talk about my first impressions going down to the event and what I'm going to be pre-ordering. All right. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and support the Apple Simp channel. If you're an Apple Simp and you like sipping on the apple juice, also follow me on Twitter at the Apple Simp, at _Apple Simp, to be part of the Apple Simp community, help us grow, and help support our walled garden. All right, Apple Simps, I'm going to go get some rest to get ready for this event tomorrow, and I will see you all soon.